poppin', y'all? It is your boy Gardi3, and welcome to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. Of course, like every morning, he is the constant on Coffee and Sports, the morning show. He is Mo Better. How you doing, Mo?
Hey, good morning, Brett. Good morning, chat. Let's get into it.
No, absolutely. Well, I will say, figure we start off talking about the NFL. We had a great weekend of football. I think we should, let's start out with some of the games from last night. We had a fun game between the Buccaneers. Say the Buccaneers played last night. It was a great time, and then we had I had a brain fart for a second there. It was Raiders and
Chargers.
Chargers. Yep, Raiders Chargers. Woo. So. Why don't we start with Raiders Chargers, Mo? That was maybe some of the worst quarterbacking that you'll see in a minute. Geno Smith was not very good.
No, Gino was not.
Say on the flip side, the Chargers, they look very good. So let's say I'm curious, what are some of your takeaways from that game last night, Mo?
My number one takeaway is that as much as Pete Carroll loves Geno Smith, and I know he likes to take credit for how well Geno played for him in Seattle, at some point Pete Carroll's going to come to the realization. He probably already knew this. Maybe he's trying to delay the possibility, but look, Geno's not the future. You're still looking for your franchise quarterback. And I think most of us knew that Geno is probably a bridge quarterback. But if he's going to continue to play at these levels, you're gonna have to go to QB2. You're gonna have to move on. The Raiders' offense is terrible. Not just in the passing game, their running game is non-existent. A rookie that a lot of people, including myself, thought would have a really good rookie season, would have a legitimate chance to be rookie of the year. Genty has not played well at all. Now, to his credit, it's not his fault that every time he's handed the football, he's contacted most of the time in his own backfield. But even when he's gone through the holes, when they have blocked well, he looks really tentative. He is not running with the confidence or the authority that he did in college. So I just think it's early. Could the Raiders turn this around? Absolutely. I don't think their offense can play any worse. Some of that credit has to go to a really fast, really swarming Chargers defense. And look, that is a Jim Harbaugh staple, right? Physical, hard-nosed, swarming defense. Jim Harbaugh, as an offense, would love to run first, but their running game is no better than the Raiders' run game right now. Everything right now is predicated on what Justin Herbert and the passing game does. So look, good game, good win by the Chargers. Look, we said before the season we didn't think there were any pushovers in the AFC West. I didn't think the Raiders' defense were awful. I just thought their offense didn't set them up for success. So I still think when it's all said and done, the Raiders are going to be a tough out going forward, especially in the division. But it was a good win by the Chargers.
It felt like the Raiders just got away from the run way too quickly. When it came to Genty, I found it alarming that Jacoby Myers had more targets than Genty had carries. And to me, that is wild. Look, I get it. The game got to 20-6 at one point and 20-9. But I still feel like that's a team that got away from the run a little too quickly. Like, when you're down 2 possessions, you can still run. But they decided to do a lot of play action without the threat of the run, and it just went so disastrously. And I guess the Raiders can take some solace in the fact that Geno Smith is not going to play a worse game than he did last night. So
we hope.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then of course the game before that, Texans Buccaneers. And Mo, I don't also put it. The Texans just look so unimpressive. CJ Stroud is absolutely just getting killed on every drop back. That defense had they're pretty much just running on just hopes and prayers, it feels like.
It's very similar to the Raiders situation. Although I think the Texans defense is much better. I think the defense has played fine. The Texans defense should be angry at their offense. Look, that offensive line is so bad that every time Stroud drops back, he's under duress. They're all over him. And I fear for his health because they're that bad. And I don't know how you fix that. I know they want to establish the run with Nick Chubb, but they don't really run block that well to do that. So I really look at that offensive line and I know they rebuilt it and tried to get a better unit. But right now it is not clicking. And I don't care what kind of talent you have on the outside, what kind of talent you have in the backfield. If your offensive line is a below average offensive line, you're going to have a below average offense.
Yeah, and no, that's absolutely say I'll give Baker Mayfield all the credit in the world. It just seems like anytime the Buccaneers need him to come up clutch, he absolutely delivers. And the Texans are so weird in the sense that, you feel like they should be good because they do have CJ Stroud. Nico Collins is a great talent. They have some talent in the running back room. But when everybody's getting contacted 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, then you're just like, oh, I guess it doesn't really matter how good the talent is.
Now, to be fair, they did put themselves in a position to win the game. Late in the game, Nick Chubb breaks free. It was one of the few times a running back actually had a lane to run through, and Nick Chubb showed a little bit of that old burst and got into the end zone. And you're thinking the Texans might pull this out. To your point, what does Baker do? Doesn't flinch, comes back down, makes a big scramble on a third down, then dumps it down to Bucky Irvin and watch Bucky Irvin. Guys like Bucky Irvin and Bijan Robinson, I can watch all day. Because watching them always makes me think back to the great Barry Sanders. Just watching guys who in space can absolutely make linebackers and safeties look bad. So Bucky Irvin makes a big play. They get all the way down to the goal line and they score and they pull it out. Close game, good game, boring game because it was very one-sided in the second half. It was all defense and punts. But I'm going to give Tampa Bay credit. They're 2-0. That's the bottom line. And I'm looking at the Texans, and they're off to a really slow start. I kept saying this to people in a division where if Indianapolis is going to get comparable quarterback play, by the way, I keep saying comparable quarterback play because that's the bar I came into the season with that Daniel Jones had to be able to hit. That if he's solid, if he's a game manager, I felt the Colts would win the division. The truth is, he hasn't been a game manager. Right now, Daniel Jones looks like a Pro Bowl quarterback. I don't expect him to stay at those levels, but if he does, they're going to run away with the division. I think the Texans have to find a way to protect CJ Stroud.
With the way he's looked, so far, hey, maybe Daniel Jones MVP season. Obviously, kidding. Josh Allen and Justin Herbert like a word, but Daniel Jones has been insanely impressive. I'm blown away by how he's looked. Comeback player of the year, maybe. He's coming back from the New York Giants.
And look, again, we're 2 games into the season. I want you to think about this for a minute. The Colts have yet to punt the football this year. Like, that's how good their offensive play. They haven't punted yet. I'm one of those people that we have to stay in reality a little bit. I know what we're seeing. I also know it's 2 games in. And he will play better defenses. But if he's a lesser version of what he's been, if he's what I expect that he could be, I still think the Colts are going to be a good football team. Great offensive line, one of the best running backs in football, and Jonathan Taylor. Pittman and company are nice on the outside, and they have a bend, don't break defense. I think the Colts are a legitimate good football team.
Say, speaking of the Colts, Mo, one of their opponents maybe had the most hilarious press conference of the weekend this past weekend. Did you hear some of the quotes out of this Dolphins press conference, Mo?
I did not.
Mo, I'm going to read you a couple because I want to get your reaction because these are just so, rich. So, first off, by the way, I'm going to start with my favorite quote right off the bat. And it's from Mike McDaniels on their Week 2 loss to the Patriots. We're here to win games. You have to win the game, not lose the game, honestly, and that is how you lose the game.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
That is a real quote that he said. Just in order to win a football game, you just have to win. You can't lose. You just have to win, and we didn't win. That's like, what? How? How is that a real quote? Like, what even is happening in Miami at this point?
Yeah, after that quote, that's when somebody that's in charge of the team PR comes out and taps him on the shoulder and go, You're done. You're done.
I say, and then there's hey, what's going on, Gene and Jory? Thanks
What's
for
up,
tuning
Gene?
in.
Jory. Good morning. Good morning, Jory.
Say, and then Tua straight up says having some talks with Rika and whatnot, and if I throw it deep, just don't think that I'm going to throw it 80 yards as you're running. Do your best to track it because you can potentially stop.
What?
Like, dude just comes out and says, hey, yeah, I don't have the arm to throw it to you, Reek. Just be ready to slow down and track that sucker because I'm just going to float it. Like,
look,
how are these real quotes? Like, what? Excuse me?
The quotes are kind of insane, but I do want to give Tua credit. I thought Tua actually played pretty well most of the game. And look, he's never had the big arm where he's going to throw it 60 yards in the air. Most of what Miami does is they hit Tyreek Hill or Waddle on crossers, and then they just run away from people.
Say, talking to it, not for the best. Evil Einstein is terrible at coaching. Yeah, say they managed to take two they took a Colts offense that had the potential to be solid if Daniel Jones, played well, and a very uninspiring New England offense, and just made them both look like the 07 Patriots. So overall, that just seems like a team in disarray, and Mike McDaniels is talking like a guy who he knows is, he knows he's getting his walking papers at some point. And if I'm Miami, how long do you even wait to do that? Like, it's clear he's not the future. Wouldn't it be smart to maybe just rip off the Band-Aid and just do it now, or do you maybe wait till week 3 or 4 and be like, yeah, you know what, you're done?
I guess the question that I'm wondering is, has he lost the locker room? Do you know what I mean? Like, because you always talk about the culture. What is Miami's culture? Who are their leaders? And I'm with you. I thought they were in disarray before the season. I thought this was, and I still do think this is a make or break year, not just for Mike McDaniels, but for Tua's future. Not as a quarterback, but I think as Miami's starting quarterback, because obviously they have a lot of money invested in him. But that doesn't mean you can't sit on the pine or be inactive as Sean Watson. You still get paid. I just think Miami needs a full restart.
No, I completely agree. And when you have to have a players only meeting after week 1,
right,
I feel like that's a good sense of where the culture is. It's just non-existent at this point. So I think you're at a point where it's just like, yep, burn it to the ground and bring in a new coaching staff. You're not going to be able to just get rid of Tua next year because there's just too much money involved.
Right.
But if you get a top 10 pick, you draft your quarterback of the future out of next year's draft, set him behind Tua for a year, maybe he can pick up some things, and 2027, maybe your best chance at a fresh start. But it's clear this iteration of the Dolphins is just over.
And look, at some point in the season, maybe sooner than later, if they continue to struggle and lose, while you may still be looking for your next franchise quarterback, it's not going to hurt you to go ahead and let the kid from Texas play Quinn Ewers, right? Put him in there with the number one offense, and see what he can do with the starters.
Locker room is as fried as Snoop. Fair enough, Jory. No, absolutely. And hey, we had the Sunday afternoon game that was great. Maybe the Lions aren't as washed as we thought they were. Now, on one hand, Detroit, they looked very rough against the Packers, but then they obliterated the Chicago Bears. So, what do you make of the Lions so far through the first couple games? Do you still think they're that high-end team, or do you think maybe they're going to be a team that struggles against other good teams since they're missing a lot in the interior still?
I think you just answered it. I think they're going to be a team that struggles versus other good teams. The Bears aren't a good team. What we've learned from Chicago is the Bears defense is worse than their offense, and their offense isn't very good, but their defense is much, much worse. I look, Detroit still has all that talent in the world. Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, like they have all the talent in the world, but they went through that Bears defense like it was butter. Their offense isn't that good in terms of the offensive line, but it looked like one of the better offensive lines in football against the Bears defense. Like they ran for over 180 yards, had 200-yard receivers. Goff threw for 4 billion yards and had 5 touchdowns. Like the Bears defense is that bad. And I know someone made the case to me, the defense is on the field a lot because the offense is going 3 and out. That's true. The offense isn't very good, but there's no reason to get physically dominated every time Detroit has the football. That's not about the offense. That's about the defense. You can say the talent or the defensive coordinator, the scheme. You can say all of it. They got completely dominated. As far as the offense go, I'm always fair in this sense. It's year 2. What you want to see from Caleb Williams is improvement. You want to see him to continue to develop. The problem with that is you want to see all those things. You also want to see the Bears win football games, right? If the Bears end up being the team I think they're going to be, let's say they win 7 games. In this NFL, the way we are, Brett, and I'm not being crazy, with the way we are now with quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, we give them 2, maybe 3 years, and then we go looking for the next guy. Am I right? That's what we do. I think Caleb Williams has to show improvement off of last season. And I always thought, even in his rookie year, I thought the easiest bar that he could cross, that he could get to, would be to be the Bears' first 4,000-yard passer, especially because of where we are in football. It's almost hard not to throw for 4,000 yards in today's NFL, even if you're a guy that dinks and dunks. And I'm not sure he's going to even cross that mark again this year. And we're not going to turn around and say Ben Johnson doesn't know how to coach. We're not going to say he doesn't know how to scheme for quarterbacks and set them up for success. You can tell me that Ben Johnson's system is complicated, but that's his system. And if this kid can't pick it up, he's not Ben Johnson's guy. Am I right? And what happens when a new coach comes in? He gives the incumbent quarterback a shot to pick it up, and then it doesn't go well. Well, the coach is not going to sit there and set himself up for failure. At some point, Ben Johnson's going to say, I got to go get my guy. I didn't draft this kid. He was here when I got here. I don't know how good Caleb Williams will be. I do know he's not going to be the transcendent player that people make him out to be. He wasn't that in college. He wasn't. He's no more transcendent than Arch Manning is transcendent. The only difference is he's not buffered by a big time last name. I think at best he can be pretty good. But there's a lot of guys that came out with his skill sets that couldn't play. And I just think he's going to be another name on that list.
I'll give the Bears offense some credit. See, here's the thing with the Bears offense is them scoring like 21 and 24 points in these first two games. That would have won them like 10 games last year. Like their offense was anemic last year. So like even the growing pains version of this Bears offense is still already like a lot better than what they were last year under Eberflus. So no, I'd say Ben Johnson is absolutely coaching up this offense to be a lot better than it was last year by far. Now they just got to figure out this defense because, yeah, 24 points should be enough to get you a win in the NFL. The problem is you give them 27, 21. That can get you a win most games, but you gave them a 50 piece. So I think the offense is strangely like producing a decent amount here. It really feels like it just comes down to can they figure out how to get stops, and that just hasn't happened through 2 weeks.
And look, there's another way to take this, right? You're a first-year coach with a second-year quarterback. He could improve and your team record not be that great, right? That could happen. You could see him take steps in his own individual game and the team still not be that good around him. That could happen. I'm just leaning towards I don't know what he is. I know what he isn't, but I don't know what he is. And I'm sure this isn't like it's not like he's going to get benched, but I do think this season is a make or break season for him because Ben Johnson's not going to come back. If they struggle, if he struggles the entire season, Ben Johnson's going to look for his guy.
You know what I'm still amazed about with Chicago? How did Ryan Poles get an extension? Because I'm like, Ryan Poles is in the running for worst GM in football. He might get bailed out by, Chris Greer down in Miami, but to me, it's bizarre. Like, the fact that he somehow got an extension, like, I saw this interesting, like, footnote on him yesterday, and mind you, already knew he was a bad GM, but he's drafted a total of 34 players now as the GM, 26, one or more season. None have made a Pro Bowl. He's 3-17 against the division, and this is him when he in his press conference goes, "Yeah, we're going to win the North and never give it back." Like, to me, it's just was so bizarre because I was just thought he was going to be like a one and done GM where his contract was going to expire and they'll be like, "Yeah, we're looking elsewhere." Because even before seeing that, you saw the results on the field and they progressively somehow get worse every year. But no, they're like, "Yeah, we're extending this guy." To me, it's just mind-boggling. I'm not sure what they saw in Ryan Poles to go, he's the guy. But to me, that feels like, honestly, the biggest mistake that they could have made because he hasn't proven that he can even draft a Pro Bowl caliber player. Do we know how easy it is to get into the Pro Bowl nowadays? Like, you could, like, show up to work one day and be like, "Yep, you're a Pro Bowler," because 27 other guys don't want to be a Pro Bowler. So now you're in. Congratulations. And he couldn't even do that.
Maybe that's what they do in Chicago. They just extend underachievers because look, the Bulls extended Billy Donovan. He didn't do anything to earn that. That might just be a Chicago thing. They reward mediocrity. And like I said, I'm not killing the kid. I acknowledge he has talent. Let's see what Ben Johnson can do with him. But I know that this isn't the same football from 15, 20 years ago. Rookie quarterbacks, they give them 2-3 years and then they spit them out and they move on.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Of course, we had an unfortunate injury on Sunday. Joe Burrow's going to be out, maybe up to 3 months. So with the Bengals season being over, I guess it's not technically over, but it feels like it's over. I feel so bad for Joe Burrow because it almost feels like he's on that very like Andrew Luck career trajectory
I
where
hear it.
I just don't know how many more hits this guy can take. What I get it. You invested a lot in your wide receivers, but also this is why I kind of wanted them to let T Walk invest more along in the trenches, offensive and defensive line. It's just unfortunate that they just can't keep him upright. And the funny part is they tried investing in the offensive line a couple years ago. So I just don't know what it is. Is it coaching? Like, is their offensive line coaches that bad? Obviously the players aren't great, but I feel like a lot of that can be, chalked up to coaching. So I don't know. Just kind of, what is your take on the state of the Bengals? Because to me, that coaching staff is a disaster, and I feel like that's just kind of the root of the problem here.
You could say the root of the problem is at the top of the organization, from ownership to I don't think their GM is any better than the Bears GM, right? Like you're right. It's about roster construction. You're trying to build around your franchise quarterback. Rule one, protect your franchise quarterback. I like T. Higgins, and I get why you would want to keep him, but they didn't have that luxury. I would have moved on from T if I could build up my offensive line better. I can go out and get another guy to play alongside Jamar Chase. He might not be as good as T. Higgins, but if my O-line is better, if my quarterback is well protected, we're going to be fine. Joe Burrow's that good a quarterback. He's one of those few quarterbacks that actually throws guys open. I just think it's a chemistry thing, right? It's a karma thing. Cincinnati's one of the worst, if not the worst, ran franchise in football, and it shows top to bottom. And I hate it for Joe Burrow because I'm a huge fan, and I think you, Gene, and others that have said he's on that Andrew Luck trajectory. I think that's accurate. I hate that that's accurate, but I think that's accurate. The next time Joe Burrow's healthy, we're going to be wondering how long he'll remain healthy, right? Till the next injury. And at some point, I think Joe Burrow, like Andrew Luck, is going to think about his long-term health. And unfortunately, he's going to walk away from football.
Yeah, no, watching that line block is just horrid because they have perfected the art of the lookout block where they, what's good, Gene? And if anybody doesn't know what the good old lookout block is, it's where you just look back at the quarterback and yell, look out!
Right.
I can't say enough bad things about Zach Taylor either because I don't know what he does still. They won without Joe Burrow, ironically, with Jake Browning, and they barely beat the Browns. But all I'm going to say is this. That Bengals coaching staff is going to need an overhaul. I just want to see him with a different coach and that coaching staff in general.
Yeah, and they won with Jake Browning. But are they going to go on a 7-game win streak with Jake Browning? Probably not. I'm not saying their season is over because you got to play the games, but it doesn't look good for Bengals fans, and it looks like another lost year. And let's be honest, by the time Joe Burrow comes back, are you really going to turn around and put him out there and risk him getting re-injured again? Like it's a lost year. I'm not putting him back out there behind that offensive line. He's just going to get hurt again.
Yeah, I agree, Gene. Fire them all and free Joe Burrow. Yeah, it feels like it is completely over. Another team that's in the spotlight now, not for winning games, but for starting 0-2 in their first 3-game losing streak of in his entire career in the regular season here, or Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They are 0-2, including a loss to the Eagles, which, by the way, closer game than I thought it would be. But that looks like another team that's they're just not doing all the little things that we're used to seeing, right? They're not closing out these close games. They're dropping passes. Patrick Mahomes is missing throws deep. Like, this is a Chiefs team that looks all out of sorts to start the season. No doubt in my mind that they'll bounce back, but what do you think has been the issue with Kansas City so far these first 2 weeks?
So let's talk about the plus side. The plus side, their defense is one of the best defenses in football, and Spags is one of the best at what he does as a D coordinator. Their defense is terrific. Their defense has carried them the last 3 years. Their offense has gotten progressively worse year after year after year. And don't forget, look, Worthy's out, Rashee Wright's out. The offense will be better once those two come back. But their offensive line isn't much better than Joe Burrow's offensive line. The only difference is Mahomes is much more mobile. The offense so far is he drops back to pass and then he takes off and runs. I didn't expect much from their offense coming into this year. I certainly didn't expect much with those two receivers out. We'll see what the offense looks like when they get back. I still don't think it's going to be like a top offense or a top 10 offense. I still think they're going to have some offensive struggles. But they were in that football game. It's a close football game. The Kelce drop was huge, right? That's something he doesn't normally do. But if he doesn't drop that, they're right there. And that's credit to how good that defense is. Their offense is so anemic that when they have an opportunity to get an explosive play, you got to hit on the explosive plays. Patrick Mahomes missed on a couple of really wide open opportunities, but his pass to Kelce was on the money. Kelce did something that Kelce's not known for doing. He dropped it, and it turned into a turnover. So, look, they're 0-2. I still think they're a good football team. I just don't think they're the beast of the AFC anymore. That's all. And when it's all said and done, do I think the Chiefs will be in the playoffs? I do. But I think the time where they ran the AFC, I think that's over.
No, absolutely. And it feels like, too, that when I'm watching, like, Travis Kelce's frustrating me. Like, I don't need to watch you drop a pass and get picked off, and instead of trying to chase down the guy who's intercepting the ball, you turn around and throw your hands up to the refs like, he held me or a pass interference. Like, no, he didn't. You just flat out dropped the ball. Like, I get it. It was tipped at the line. It changed the trajectory a little bit, but it still hit you right in the breadbasket. When you're in the conversation of greatest tight end ever, like, that's a catch that you have to make. So it's one of those things where just the vibes and the body language in general from Kelce just does not seem to be that good right now.
And to be fair to him, when people say, well, Travis Kelce looks old and slow, for his position, for playing in the NFL, for playing at the level that he's played at most of his career, he is old and slow. That he is. But that doesn't mean that he still can't be a complimentary player. I just don't think the days of him just being dominant and just winning one-on-ones is there anymore. And their offense is going to continue to struggle. But as long as Spags is there with that defense, they're going to be in almost every game. But like Kyle said, they just have a really small margin for error on offense.
No, fair enough. What's good, Cottrell? We we also had a couple other like Sunday afternoon games in that same time slot that just had fantastic endings. Of course, Cowboys and Giants was just an unexpected barn burner. Say, what's up, Sergeant? I that game was so much fun to watch. That was the game I wasn't expecting to be as good as it was. 40-37. For a second I thought they were going to tie it before Russ threw that pick, but yeah, both offenses were great until overtime, and then neither of them could score.
I agree. Fun game. Almost like a video game watching all the explosive plays throughout the game. And Russ threw a god awful pick in overtime. It was, and I know what he was trying to do, but that's a good example of doing too much. He was trying to make a play and it wasn't there. It was a terrible play. But like I said yesterday, they should have won that game in regulation. It shouldn't have gone to overtime. The Giants defense, the defense that a lot of people, including myself, have talked about what they could be and how dominant they were terrible. They were terrible. That game should have been won in overtime, and they didn't do their jobs. Or shouldn't have been won in overtime. I'm sorry, it should have been won in regulation. The Giants defense lost that football game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Denver Colts game with the very controversial ending, let's say line up. Colts try to kick the field goal, miss, but the Broncos get hit with a leveraging penalty and gives them an extra 15 yards and a second chance, which the kicker, nails. So I thought that was just an interesting back and forth, and of course, it just has to have the craziest ending possible. So I was here for that. That was interesting.
It was a crazy ending. Man, you don't see that leveraging call very often. That's a tough way to lose a football game. I'll just say that that's a tough way to lose a football game.
It felt like that ending was just, it was kind of both on the coaches, right? On one hand, when we're talking about the Colts kicker, Schrader, he's kicking a 61-yard field goal. He never shown he has the leg for that. So if I'm the Broncos special team coach, I'm like, look, don't get too crazy. Don't commit a stupid penalty. Just, maybe fake throw some pressure on him. I don't think he has the leg for it, which he clearly didn't. That was way off. So on the flip side, it feels like the Colts in that situation just, I get it. You want to go for the game-tying field goal, but man, you put out your kicker that probably doesn't have the leg to get it there to try to win that football game. And they put him in a really tough spot, but got bailed out by the fact that the Broncos committed a very stupid penalty. So
I think you nailed it. It's on both the coaches. If you're the Broncos, he didn't have that leg. I don't even think you have to do fake pressure. We could have just all stood up straight. Let him kick it. He with us. He ain't got that kind of leg. That was dumb. They were trying to be extra. They treated him like, what's the kid for the Cowboys? He ain't got that kind of leg. Like that kid got that kind of leg. All right. He got that kind of leg. Come on. You could have just stood up, let him kick it, no pressure at all, and he would have come nowhere near making that. I didn't like the call, but the Broncos, they didn't help themselves.
No, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing next week's slate of games. This week's was a ton of fun, and ironically, one of the better games maybe of this weekend too was the great Mac Jones versus Spencer Rattler showdown of 2025. 49ers and Saints played in a fun and close game. So, look, I'll give the 49ers credit. It felt like that when they were announced that, Purdy was out, it really felt like that they were done. But to their credit, they came out and pulled it out against a very game New Orleans Saints.
So the problem I have with this game as a Niners fan, how do I say this without seeming harsh? It's one game, but when I was on with the NFL Genius last week, we talked about this, and I felt the same way. The Niners offense would be solid. It would be fine because Mac Jones, I'm talking about in terms of his physical abilities, his attributes, similar to Purdy, comfortable in the system. Shanahan loved Mac Jones from the jump. And sure enough, Mac Jones fit the system like a glove. He did mine, and by the way, he fit the system without the glove, without the weapons that Purdy's used to having. And as I'm watching this game play out, all things going on in my head is, and I love Brock. I do. I'm a Brock Purdy fan. When you overachieve and you do what he's done, that's amazing. And he can get his flowers every day of his week. I can't give Brock Purdy $50 million. And watching Mac Jones do what he did, that's why you don't give Brock Purdy $50 million.
No, and that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And that's kind of what I was thinking watching that game. I was like, wow, well, Mac Jones looks pretty good. I wonder if he strings together a solid, couple weeks here and Purdy maybe comes back and struggles a bit. Do they have some quick buyer's remorse?
But see, that's the thing. You gave Brock $50 million. And I'm not saying Mac Jones is better than Brock Purdy, but I would say that in terms of physical attributes and what they do, they're pretty much the same guy. And I'm not going to harp on this. I'm not. There's not going to be a quarterback controversy because you gave Brock Purdy $50 million. There is no controversy. Mac Jones could play like the MVP of the NFL. When Purdy comes back, he's going to the bench.
I'd say no, absolutely. No, that's fair enough. I'm looking forward to. Look, I know I'm excited for my team next week. Hopefully, it should be an easy win for us. We drew Cleveland, so that in all reality shouldn't be too challenging. Packers Browns. I know we can't really overlook opponents, but man, I'm so looking forward to that Week 9 showdown against Philadelphia. That's going to be so much fun, but I think next week, the thing with the Green Bay is they got to be careful because this is when we start getting dangerous in the NFL, right? You win a couple like in dominant fashion, you get a little too ahead of yourself, and then you run into a trap game like Cleveland, where all of a sudden it's like, and now you're down, and you're in a dogfight with the Cleveland Browns. So I'm looking forward to next week, but this has trap game written all over it for Green Bay. So not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous that something unexpected is gonna happen.
I think Cleveland has a good defense. I really do. But because their offense is so inept, I think Green Bay, even if you guys don't play your A game, I think Green Bay will find a way to win that football game because I just don't think Cleveland has anything going on the offensive side of the football. But I get why you would feel that way. Look, it'll be week 3, and for all the teams that look like world beaters the first 2 weeks, there's always at some point a leveling off. But even if you guys level off and struggle and not play your best, I think I thought your team was one of the most well-balanced teams before you added Micah Parsons. I think you guys are going to be fine. If you find yourself in a dogfight against a physical, because the Browns are a physical defensive team, take solace in knowing that Joe Flacco is going to throw you a couple of picks. You're going to be fine.
Oh, fair enough. We're hoping that Micah Parsons will be ramping up to, just playing pretty much every snap soon. It's pretty much, I think it's looking either ironically, week 4, or after the bye week. But, of course, I think he's going to push really hard to play every snap of week 4, which is, of course, against the Dallas Cowboys. So, That will be a fun reunion game.
And I want to find out about that game too. I want that's going to be interesting to see Packers Cowboys, obviously because of the dynamics of the trade. But is that Cowboys offense really that explosive, or the Giants defense just that bad? Because I think the Cowboys potentially could be really good when you look at what they have on the outside and what Dak could be. But I think as a whole, I don't think their offense is that explosive. I just think the Giants' defense was vastly overrated.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And then of course, Mo, switching over to WWE. We got the big announcement, by the way. WWE is hyping up a big announcement for Friday. And the announcement is really simple. WrestleMania 43 is going to Saudi Arabia in 2027. Mo, what are your thoughts on WrestleMania to Saudi?
I won't be making that plane trip. And by the way, spoiler alert, millions of other wrestling fans ain't making that plane trip. I think that's where I start at. WrestleMania for wrestling fans, especially in this country, is like the Super Bowl of wrestling, right? And what you loved about it is you had access to it because it was somewhere in this country. And I think by moving it to Saudi, you just alienated a huge portion of your fan base. But here's the thing that I said this yesterday. I said it to Will. If it comes down to money in a bidding war, if it comes down to money, then WrestleMania will be in Saudi the next 3 or 4 years. They will always have more money. They will always have more money. And from what I'm hearing about TKO is going to always follow the money. So that presents a problem going forward. And I understand you want to. They're saying they want to appeal to an international audience. You already have a huge international following. I just don't like the fact that you took WrestleMania away from all the wrestling fans in this country and made it less accessible for them. And I think that's disappointing. And I think that in a lot of ways, you've alienated a portion of your fan base. And I would say be really, really careful, because the one of the things that AEW does really well is they make themselves very accessible to the fans. Be very careful.
It feels like that if they were going to do it overseas, WrestleMania at Wembley Stadium was like right there for them. And going to, the UK is a lot more accessible, and I think people just feel more comfortable going there than Saudi Arabia, which, has problems in its own right. So it's one of those things where I'm concerned also about the card, because they already started throwing out, reports like, well, they're going to reach out to, a lot of the older guys about wrestling. And I promise you, I read that and I'm like, oh boy. And it's exactly who you thought. It's like, oh, they're going to reach out to The Undertaker, to The Rock, to Stone Cold, to Shawn Michaels. I'm like, so we're just running WrestleMania 1998 back.
Right.
Got it. Except The Undertaker's more machine than man at this point, with as many surgeries as he had. Shawn Michaels is getting double knee replacement surgery next month. The Rock is, The Rock could probably still pull it off, but Stone Cold, he's, beat up at this point too. I just hope, right? Because I respect these guys too much that I don't want to see them go out there and embarrass themselves. But I just hope that they do just continue to focus on this generation's talent. Like, if you want to trot those guys out there, don't try to, force them to wrestle a match. Just let them maybe come out, say hi, thank you for coming out, or maybe super kick or choke slam a guy and, go home. But when it comes to the in-ring talent, let's keep it 50 and under, please.
I agree. But let's not also forget, this is the part that we kind of touched on yesterday. When you have an event in Saudi, you have to also factor in how that impacts the women's division, how that impacts the women performers in Saudi, in the country, with how they treat women and where women are held or you know what I mean? Like, it's a big difference. So are all the women in the WWE going to be wearing like pants outfits? Are they going to have to cover up their hair, their head? Like those things do matter in Saudi. That matters. And I hate that TKL just sold out and took the money. I do. And when you take the money that way, and you're making a deal and showing support to that country with all the human rights problems that country has. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, the women will be kind of forced to wear those like long like bodysuits that they have to every time they go to Saudi. I can't imagine that's comfortable for them. Like, I just can't imagine how hot it gets in those things. And especially like next year, they're gonna have to do a whole like Royal Rumble in those things because that's gonna be in Saudi. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it, and because I know, I think I'd love to see the women main event WrestleMania next year. But yeah, I just hope that I hope they get the spotlight they deserve when they go to Saudi Arabia. I really do, but I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. So
they're not going to main event, not in Saudi.
No, and knowing because when you go over there, they're going to want their legends too. So I just hope their TV time isn't cut because we need a 20-minute Rock promo. So
look, if the legends go over there, I think you made a great point. Go over there, be legends. I don't know, show up for some events, sign some autographs, take some pictures, do some interviews. Don't perform in the ring.
no, absolutely. So I know I'm excited for. I'm definitely I definitely agree with the point you made earlier too. It's I think TKO following the money and you know WWE is seemingly getting more expensive by the week, and I think they definitely got to be careful because AEW is keeping their ticket prices nice and cheap for everybody. You got a lot of fun indie events that have their tickets nice and cheap. So I think TKO does have to be careful because a lot of these fans, I think, if they continue to get more expensive and if they can't continue to deliver the high quality TV, that they might start looking elsewhere. Let's be real. When it comes to WWE, I saw a lot of people like when AJ returned, they were like, "That's it. Triple H just got Booker of the Year locked up," and I'm like, "No." Triple H just pulled a Chris Paul and hit a huge lead to cut the lead down to 42 because the booking itself on the actual shows outside of these big returns have been uninspiring for a lot of the years. So between a lot of this, the John Cena heel run just not being able to be booked halfway correctly, and just a lot of things just outside of that, Goldberg, Gunther hardly had a build. Like, it just feels like that if they continue down this track where they take the money, but don't necessarily give you the product that, you want for the money, then I could see people start to tune out from them, and I hope it's not the case. There's a lot of great talent there, but man,
they're doing everything you said they shouldn't do. We talked about this last week. We said, you know what? We get that Raw is the television show, but you still have to put out entertaining matches. You still have to do some compelling storytelling. What we say, you guys can't keep running out these different iterations of the Vision being the main event for every Monday Night Raw, right? You can't keep doing that. And they keep doing that. They did it again last night. They did it again. It's just nonstop. You got way more talent on that roster, and you keep doing the same thing. Oh, it's weird, but I feel like the Vision has already gotten stale. I'm sick of Bronson Reed and Bronson Breaker. You see them every week. They're basically the main event of Raw by default.
Yeah, and that's just the Triple H way of booking, right? He finds a stable, falls in love with said stable, boom, they're the main event. Like, obviously, he took over close to WrestleMania 40. Then we just had the Bloodline main eventing SmackDown every week and the Judgment Day on Raw. After WrestleMania 40, it's still the Bloodline every week. It's still the Judgment Day on Raw. And just when we think the factions, like, maybe are coming to an end a little bit, or that their time, with their stranglehold on the main event scene's done, here comes the Vision now, who are opening and closing Raw. I love a good faction, but I think they just got to understand that we don't need to see said faction 27 times in one show. It's at some point, it's the lore of diminishing returns, and I like all the talent in Division, but that being said, you're just going to wear everybody out to them,
right?
And a lot of people are just going to start turning on them.
Throw me a curveball. That's all I'm saying. Like, throw me a curveball. For let's say, for whatever reason, Brunson Reed bumps into Dirty Dom. Dirty Dom starts talking trash, and Finn Balor comes and have that faction go up against. Throw me that would be entertaining. I just need to see something different. It's okay for factions to battle other factions. That would be better than what they're doing right now.
One of my favorite rivalries, growing up, was a faction warfare of the Shield and the Wyatt family because of how unexpected and great that was. No, yeah, I completely agree. I almost feel like that. I feel like while the Vision's always going to be like the higher tier, like main event level stable, it almost feels like maybe the most entertaining stable right now in WWE just might be the Wyatt Six. It feels like, they got the tag champs, they're unpredictable, and they're not overexposed. Like, they show up once a show, maybe you catch them creeping in some of these backstage segments, but it feels like they're, like, on the show perfectly. And their appearances feel like genuine surprises outside of their regularly scheduled matches. So, I don't know. I feel like WWE should almost, like, look at what they're doing with the Wyatts, kind of take that less is more approach with the Vision. Like, you don't have to, like, take them, completely, like, all their segments away, but they just don't need to open the show, close the show, have segments right in the middle. Like,
right.
Just, like, give them the opening segment, have them wrestle a match, and that's about it.
I'm with you. Agree.
Say that being said, that's all I had for us today. Anything you want to add before we get up on out of here?
No, fast show. Appreciate you stepping in, partner, as always. Thank you, chat. Thank you, Kyle, Gene, Saijin, Jory, everybody that showed up. Appreciate you guys. Guys, make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can catch Mo and I next on Thursday for the And One podcast. We're gonna aim to do a show maybe early in the afternoon. Going to a Brewer game Thursday night, so it's gonna be a great time. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.